Like 1872.
All right.
Great transition.
I'm gonna start this off with a bang.
Let's do let's practice our transitions. I really like that segue.
Yeah, okay.
So just like I don't know. Tell me about your day. What'd you do today?
What did I do today? Today I went to Hunt's and I sold like a camera, and there's this one guy who just like kept like he like bought a thing, and the moment his credit card went through, he immediately said, "Actually, I want to buy something else." And I was just like, okay. And so I had to like just return it and then get it back. Not that interested in a store now.
And that feeling that you felt, would you say it was? One could say it was just the same type of things they felt in 1872.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. So
the feeling of confusion.
Yeah. And it was a confusing time.
Yeah.
It was a hard time.
All right.
Oh man, if I just started playing Europa Universalis right now,
would you commit you to a hospital?
I would be upset. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You're on the podcast?
I would just be like, you're an addict and you need to be put down.
I just immediately go on Steam.
You're just on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
I can like honestly in this world I can see that being how people would interact with each other. It's just a bigger version of your phone just scrolling through it.
I'm just watching.
He tries to play video games on his typewriter.
See, the failure of that I'd be okay with. It's the success of being removed and just like doing a normal thing that drives me crazy. Are you looking up some notes?
Yeah, I'm looking up what I was reading.
Oh,
all right.
Great, here we go.
All right.
I read a little bit about the election, but I ultimately found this thing.
All right, well, you're not talking, so I'm going to start off in saying what I'm saying is that...
Look at this bum.
Jesus.
Let me just go on Wikipedia for a second here and talk to you about
This is a history podcast.
Okay.
So I have my source.
Okay, yeah, so...
I have my source, Wikipedia, here.
You don't need a source.
And this is the podcast. This is 1872, where we just read Wikipedia articles.
1872!
1872. Dun, dun.
All right.
Good old 70s.
I'm just gonna scream it into the mic so that it has a hard start.
Yeah,
We're already going.
No, but let's coordinate. Let's make some music out of it. Ready?
What?
3, 2,
1872.
1.
What are you counting off?
1872.
Let them come in.
1872. Whoa, whoa, whoa. 1872.
1872.
18.
Why'd you guys change as soon as we got?
Because we're not musicians. I have no idea what I'm doing. All right.
4, 3.
No, we're done with music. This is a history podcast. We're talking about stuff. We're not making music.
But we need a theme song. It's a new show.
No.
We don't have a theme.
No.
Oh,
we
wow,
just
that's a bad
made it.
idea.
That's all it was. All right.
I count 6 shots.
So I'm gonna take out the background music in the. So let's not refer to it just as we be aware. Anyhow,
I feel like I'm trying to really just sabotage all your authority in this moment.
oh, that's everything you ever try to do with me. It's why you're fucking obnoxious to try to make stuff
That's
with.
why I'm the co-host
You're
of the
so
show.
fucking problematic in every way you try to do creative stuff. Your entire angle is thwart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, there were no.
You're just scum.
There were no people.
Right. So what Zach's showing us is that the map of the United States doesn't include
no, don't even talk
Arizona,
about it. It's
New
useless.
Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Oklahoma, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Washington, and
No.
Montana. All of that is not included. Like, that's not United States
just-
right now. So there's this portion of the country right now that people are trying to travel through to get to other parts of the United States. The story that I heard is this story about the Modoc Indian Wars, where a group of people were attacked by some random Native American troop that
No.
nobody knows who they were
That's
on
not
their way
true.
to California.
It's not true.
Yeah, no, this is...
didn't
you're just
happen.
saying no.
It just didn't happen, though.
Sounds like it happened in 1872.
Yeah.
We're just.
No, this is the show.
No,
this is
this
the show. This is it. No, this is what we're doing. We're acknowledging this is what we're doing right now.
I just want to make sure, like, we have some crossover audience, right? Like we're not trying to rebrand. This is our thing.
You're the worst.
This is still the
You're the worst person.
He's the worst, isn't he? The worst.
Yeah, he is the worst. He's just,
you were in on it too.
no, he's just
You just
telling
started-
lies.
It's a lie.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So do you have a amendment you'd like to add to his story?
it's all fucking. All right, first of
All
all,
history is a lie. Is that your purport, or is it just that
No.
Native American genocide is a lie? Are you going to defend? Are you going to argue that Native American
snap.
genocide didn't happen?
no, I'm not gonna
Snap.
defend that. But that's true.
All right, settle down, you two. Settle
I
down.
mean, no, it's
Because
not
we're
true.
going back to 1872.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. All right, Zach. What do you got for us? You've got Wikipedia in front of you. Don't fuck it up. Don't lie. You've got the fucking cheat sheet in front of you.
Yo, nice
Read it off, buddy.
Sean's gonna disagree with what I said. All right, so the topic this is good. So we should introduce our topics. Like what did you do at school today, right? So your topic
Oh,
was
great fucking teaching guy.
what was your topic? It was there was an Indian war, right? What was the
So it's
tribe's
the
name?
Modoc Indian War.
That's a cool name.
So it's the Modoc
No,
tribe
that
of
happened.
Indians were.
That did happen,
It,
yeah.
Well, according to Wikipedia. So I mean, you may be right, you may be wrong. I'm not sure. But at this time, I mean, people are traveling to California through like unclaimed territory, like all those states I just named. Like going through Colorado to these huge mountains was a fucking nightmare for white people, just like trying to get to like other white nations of like California, where there's like, oh shit, there's gold over there, but you got to go through like all this uncharted territory.
It's just Indian land.
Yeah, and they're
Wild
like,
fucking country.
they're slowly settling it.
It's crazy.
And they're getting this random group of Indians or Native Americans attack a wagon headed to California, and so those like the white people, the white settlers retaliate and just attack the closest Indian tribe around, and that's the Modoc Indians. And so the Modoc Indians then like retaliate against those white people who attacked them, and then the white people call in the U.S. Army, and the army comes in, and it's like 500 U.S. soldiers versus about 50 Modoc Indians.
Here to save the day.
They come in.
Here comes the USA, baby.
But they fuck up. It's like foggy, and the Indians know the terrain so much better, and they just keep losing.
Yeah.
They just keep losing over and over, battle after battle, and so they end up like the Modocs and the army then start negotiating peace. The U.S. Army is doing so bad, and
The U.S. Army does bad all the time. Like, we only ever win because we're fucking Mr. Moneybags. I feel like
500
we
troops versus 50, and we're fucking losing so badly.
Dude,
still.
fucking Wounded Knee, man. Custer. Just like people with sticks and fucking rocks, and we're like, oh shit.
I
We
love
got-
Dan Carlin's thing about like the
fell
most they
into
ever
a
had were
fucking
like
double
5,000.
envelopment. Yeah.
So what happened at Wounded Knee? I don't know the Battle of Wounded Knee. There was a double envelopment.
Basically, I mean, Custer just allowed himself to get surrounded, and no one escaped. Everyone died. It was a total loss.
Oh, Wounded Knee was just an American disaster?
Yeah, that's why it's remembered. It was
Yeah, they like all got killed.
Really?
every single soldier got killed in the army regiment, in Custer's squad or
Wow.
whatever it was. So it was like, I mean, that's not even like a rout. That's like just absolute. Is there even a word for that in military? Like where you kill
A decimation.
A decimation.
Well, decimation I think is 1 out of every 10 is lost. Decimal.
Right. So do you know this one, Sean?
No, I don't know.
feel like there's a word like the Battle of Cannae is like a double envelopment, or like a rout is when like
No, I know what you're
an
talking
army
about.
moves. But is there something for just like no survivors?
Fubar.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up because I have the internet.
So anyhow, the United States Army is getting fucked up by this tribe of Modoc Indians who are led by a guy named Captain Jack, who's like other officers. This guy named Hooker Joe.
Hooker Joe.
These are
huh?
like the Native American names of these like warrior tribesmen. Are Captain Jack and Hooker Joe, and Captain Jack is like leading these raids on the United States Army and winning, and Captain Jack is the chief of the Modoc Indians, and so he's the one who goes to the peace tent during this negotiation of peace, and he demands that like the Indians get, or like the natives get, the Modoc people get full, like, what am I trying to say, like full, like a wiped of their slate of their crimes for the like attacks they did on the white people, that they would get a reservation. And oh no, because I'm missing out on this big part of the story. So the United States Army comes up, and they like win some battles, and they send the Modoc people off to the Klamath Reservation. But the Klamath Reservation is the reservation of their like long hated enemies. And so the Klamath are just fucking with the Modoc constantly. They're like stealing their lumber and just like making living on the reservation hell. And so 150 of these Modoc people say, fuck this, we're going to leave and we're going to go back to our homes, which we just got kicked off. And that's when the army gets called in. And then it's like, so then the Modoc are kind of beating the army back and forth until they then like have this peace negotiation. But the Modoc like tribes people really want Captain Jack to like get all of this shit, and neither will acquiesce to the other person's like demands. And so the like frustrated Modoc tribes people start shaming Captain Jack, their chief, by forcing him to wear women's clothing to every meeting that they do. Wow. And they start pressuring him to murder the peace negotiators.
What?
And he eventually acquiesces to those pressures. And in one of the meetings, he, like Captain Jack, like goes outside and essentially like whistles, and these Modoc warriors come out from over the hills and just murder the like peace negotiators, and it starts the war back up again.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like the worst possible thing you can do.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They thought it was like going to end the war. They're like, oh, if we kill their leaders, the war will be over. But they didn't realize like that there's just more leaders above those people.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
They thought they were the chiefs of America.
Right, yeah.
Or of the United States.
it
we should
sounds
say,
like
yeah.
that's a possibility.
They
It's
conquer
like,
Washington,
is
D.C.
this President Grant? Kill him!
Yeah.
Is this their king?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they really might have thought it was like that important of a person showed up for their tiny little war. It's not even a war, it's like a skirmish. Right?
I mean, they also might not have a context for like how big the world is or how big certain
that's what I'm
institutions
saying.
are.
Contextually, it's like they don't realize that the scale of their conflict, because to them it's World War I, I guess at this point. But to them it's like a devastating war, and to us it's just like, oh, we're throwing some rocks at native people, you know, like just because the context is so different.
Right. I mean, the stakes are very different, because the stakes of losing this Modoc war for the United States is just losing a path between, you know, Mississippi, the Mississippi River and the Pacific coast, which is a huge deal. But it's not the same deal as existential crisis of genocide of your tribal people. And like, I don't know, it makes just learning the like Dan Carlin perspective on like Caesar going and into Gaul and finding like a nation of people who he considered to be barbarians, but like on the same technological scale as him. And like that we like measure societies in terms of like technology, and because that's how you win wars.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small tribe too, though, and against the military, it'll
always, I mean, like a big versus small at the end of the day is going to lose, right? Like, yeah. I don't remember how the war ends though. So I remember there's like as I either didn't read the end of it close enough, but the gist I got was just like that there was kind of bad battle after bad battle. Oh no, there's one other key part that I remembered, which was that Captain Jack, I think, is killed in battle, the leader of the Modoc tribe. And then this schism happens amongst the Modoc people, where there's two different people fighting for power, and half of the tribe's people are on one side and half of them are on another. And one of them, Hooker Joe, betrays the other side to the United States Army, probably thinking that it was going to work out for him. But then with them fractured, they just completely lose, and it's over.
Yeah. Just can't handle it, man.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That's 1872.
But
1872.
God damn it. No, it lasted more than 1 year though, didn't it?
It wasn't very long. Like it was essentially like an April to like it was like into like May of the next year kind of thing.
So under a year.
Yeah, under 2 years. So it like
Under 2
starts in
years,
72,
okay.
ends in 73.
This beer is starting to just numb my tongue, and I no longer care about how bad it tastes.
Yeah.
It's just so nothing. It's
Numb tongue, huh,
so
bud?
bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit.
What did you learn, Sean?
What I learned?
Yeah.
Well, I started to look at different things around the world that I thought were interesting. And then I was like, fuck this. I don't want to look at that. And then I just thought about what I wanted to read, which was like murders, like murder mysteries and shit. So I looked it up, and there's this one that I never heard about called The Bloody Benders. And it's fucking insane. I never heard about it in my life, and it's like the best drama I ever heard. But it's the story of this family. Well, they might have been a family. They don't actually know if they were a family or if they were just like fellow German Americans that they decided to befriend or marry, or they're actually family. They don't even know because it's like so fucking long ago, and there was no records of these people. But there was 4 main people. Let me name these guys off. We got Kate Bender, we got John Senior Bender, and John Junior Bender, and
Kate, John Jr., John Sr., and who?
and Elvira Bender.
Huh. Kate,
Elvira.
John Jr. are the daughters, or the children, I'm imagining.
Yep, they're
And
the
then
children.
John Sr. and
They were,
Elvira are a parent couple.
Yeah, that's what they think, but they don't even know for sure.
They
'cause
were a
no one-
family of serial killers?
Yeah, they killed over 20 people.
Whoa.
I feel like that's like a trope in like Western kind of like cowboy stories and stuff, is this like weird hill family who like
Yeah.
kills people, right? That's interesting. So that must be where that archetype comes from.
Could be.
Yeah.
But it spanned between 3 years. It started in 69 and ended in 72. It's in Kansas. And then like it was on this main trail in Kansas that everyone would go to get to the west. So what they had was they had an inn attached to their house. So everyone would stop at their like
the Bates
inn
Motel.
or their tavern. And
Shit.
the two guys had sledgehammers, and they'd hide behind this cloth, or it described as a cloth that they hid behind, or there was a cloth in a certain spot, and they'd always ask the person to sit in the nice spot by the window, so they would sit there, and then these 2 guys would jump out, whack them in the head, or one of them would whack them in the head with a sledgehammer, and then the daughter would come over and slit the throat, and then a trap door opens up and drops into like a 3-foot by 6-foot hole. And they did this like
fuck?
20
Whoa.
times.
In their
And-
inn.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, is this fucking serious? I never heard about this in my whole life.
That's the scariest thing to have, like, as a story, as a travel. I mean, like, that the people who are out there to like take care of you are out there to like trick you, and
Yeah.
you're out in the middle of nowhere. If you disappear, and you know it, if you disappear, no one will ever know what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that makes this into like a crazy drama is that so they would kill rich or poor people. So you don't even know if they had a motive for like money, but they'd kill people, and some of these people would have up to 50,000 like current US just on them.
Yeah, because you didn't have
'Cause,
credit.
like, what the fuck
everyone
would you
had
do?
cash
Yeah.
or valuables.
So
on
if you're
them.
wealthy, that means
Especially
you
if you're-
have more money on you.
Right.
You literally just had it on you.
Because you're moving to California to try to do something.
Yeah.
You're taking everything you have.
Yeah, so they would kill poor or rich people, and it's kind of weird because, like, what's their motive then? Is this a family of people who enjoy just tricking and killing people like for the thrill of it?
I mean, it sounds like it's like one of those killer couples that then had taught their children
Yeah.
the art of murder.
It's pretty crazy.
Wow. Do you have any? So what do you got for us about them? Do you have like anecdotes of like what they did specifically, or where they're from, or?
Well, they're apparently from Germany or Holland, maybe Netherlands, I think.
Goddamn immigrants again, right?
But like apparently the older John Senior and Ma Bender, I guess that was her name, Ma, and then Pa Bender.
Mm-hmm.
They just call him that. But I guess they weren't supposed to speak very good English. They only knew their native dialect.
Oh, huh.
And then the younger, like their like son and daughter, did speak fluent English, but like they were under this like disguise that they didn't understand it very well. But they actually get like caught, and like in the act of them like clearly understanding English and responding to it.
Oh, wow.
And it's like they had this whole disguise set up, and it was actually this guy. Well, what happens is that one of the rich guys was Dr. William Henry York, and this guy is like related to like a senator from Kansas. So
Huh.
he's like,
Oh, so like he
Important.
disappears and people notice.
like yeah, he disappeared. People knew. So his brother, Colonel Ed York, went to investigate it, and it's like this crazy like drama of like a family member trying to find like
wow.
his relative who's like lost. And I can't there's this one part I can't quite
Where was their
remember.
inn? Did you say already? Like
was in,
I
uh,
imagine in like the Colorado Hills, but you said it's between Kansas and the West Coast, or
Yeah, it's Kansas, 7 miles northeast of Cherryvale.
so it was in Kansas
Yeah, it
itself.
was in Kansas.
Oh, so it's just in flatland.
Yeah, like I saw a picture of the inn. It was just like a small shack, like
Huh.
this little thing, and like the area was already well known for like victims and just like of crimes from like thieves and like highwaymen. There's supposed to be a lot of highwaymen on this one road that leads west. So people like expected people to get lost, but then they found that like too many people were getting lost, and they had, especially when this guy Dr. Henry York got lost, they actually like started to look for these people.
Man, being a criminal in the past sounds so fun, because
So
you like
easy.
like
You can get away with anything.
it seems like you could just get away with anything, and
Dude,
then you
these
just
guys-
go camp in the woods with your buddies.
Yeah.
These guys got away. They all got away.
Oh wait, so
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
we never caught them, and that's
what
not how we
happened
know
was-
about them.
There was a lot of so this brother, Colonel Ed York, his brother Henry York died or was murdered. He tried to find them, and he goes and he suspects these people. He's like, all right, these people are strange. Like he I don't know, I guess he could like understand that there was something wrong with this place. And so he's trying to get evidence that they did it. So they call a town like meeting, and all the like families get together and they hold a meeting.
To discuss that like people are
remember what-
missing.
Yeah,
Wow,
to discuss it. And
it's crazy to have a town meeting that's just like, so we've lost like a lot of people recently. We have a murderer in our midst. We
Yeah.
need to fucking figure this out, you guys, or you're next.
but yeah, like the Benders went to that, and they're like, all right,
Let's get 'em.
So they clearly knew ahead of time. So they had a couple of weeks actually to prepare for this stuff, which was pretty interesting. Just looking at a bunch of beautiful Prussian soldiers.
Yeah. I'm lost in this.
You want me to take this from you?
This is like
Who painted that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
When is that?
It's the proclamation of the German Empire in
Amongst all the, like,
1871.
Yeah,
70.
it sounds about right.
So it's not quite 1872, but it's right around that time.
Yeah,
God, look at
that
these
was right
people.
after the Franco-Prussian War.
Yeah. No, still, it was still wrapping up when they proclaimed the German Empire.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Okay.
It was essentially just Prussia at that point. But
Yeah.
God, look at these men. Who, seriously, like, they're so cool. What did these guys do in their time, you know?
But yeah, getting back to these benders, these horrible bender people.
Yeah, please continue. Sorry.
They were able to actually escape because they had this town meeting, and people were like, "Oh, well, they left. I wonder why." And
Huh.
then they were like,
But
"Okay,"
they like knew that the like heat was on. Is that what they left because they heard out that like
because they left their horses there, I believe, or no, their like livestock was like dying, and they're like, they're not here."
oh they're gone.
So
So they didn't show up to the meeting. You mean?
no, they show up to the meeting,
And then they were like, we gotta fucking.
but
go.
then they left. Yeah, and there
Huh.
there was like a few weeks before like they went back to the house. The Colonel York went back
Huh.
to like because he suspected them, so he went back after the meeting, and then
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, they're gone. Great."
Yeah.
So they literally got enough people to like dig the place up to actually lift up that inn and move it so they can just dig a giant hole to find evidence.
Wait, what? Oh, to like find
They
to.
physically moved the house so they could find evidence like buried on the
Wow.
floor.
So they go underneath the whole thing.
Yeah.
Did they keep the house intact or did they take it down?
They kept it intact, but after the whole situation was finished with, like souvenir hunters literally pulled everything off the house.
Whoa.
So it doesn't exist anymore.
Holy
Because it was
cow.
that famous at the time.
Whoa.
But it's just hard to imagine. It's like, oh, this is gone because everyone took it. They
Huh.
just didn't care, I guess.
Wow, imagine like you're also making that like westward journey because like the people in the town might have taken some, but I bet it was like there's a lot of people passing through that town because
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
the
town
main-
that Warrenton in.
That was the main road to
Yeah.
get west, and
You'd just be like, oh, I'm gonna take.
if it's
fucking
famous,
something.
you're
Yeah,
just gonna
like
start taking it apart. But that's cool.
that's crazy.
But yeah, they dug up that place after they left, and they found enough body parts and evidence from stories about people disappearing in the area that they killed up to 20 people,
Wow,
which is pretty crazy.
that is.
And what I couldn't remember is that I know Henry York, he got murdered, and his brother went to investigate, but I can't remember if his brother actually got murdered too,
Whoa,
which would be
whoa,
like, crazy.
man, that's like that's the part of the story that you never get, which is just like this intimate cat and mouse game of like those two, like hunting each other,
yeah.
and then he like finds the family, unless like it was a completely unrelated incident.
Well, I don't know. It's a pretty crazy story.
You want to ask Zach what has he found, or you got more? What do you got, Zach?
No, are you all done with yours?
I was looking for some more info. I wanted to know if this Colonel Ed York was also killed when he went to investigate the killing of his own brother.
Whoa.
I can't remember if that also happened. Actually, there's a victims chart here,
What's that
and
look
I
like?
can check that. See if he's on.
Excuse
Mhm.
me. Jeez.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
I figure while you're looking at that, we can pull up something. We can shift gears and shift back and forth so that we don't just stop and like search for stuff.
I'm gonna shift gears.
Yeah. Let's
here we
see. What else about
1870.
1872? I've got a quick one that was just 1872 was the election year, we found out. So it's the year Grant got elected, right? So Grant that year ran against a guy named Horace Greeley, and Horace Greeley's wife was
Greeley.
sick. Greeley?
Greeley.
Horace Greeley. Greeley's wife was sick throughout Greeley's entire campaign and died 5 days before the election happened.
Whoa.
And Greeley, like, you have to imagine that Greeley was just a terrible campaigner.
Yeah.
Like, if his wife dies 5 days before the election and he loses in a landslide against Grant, and then he dies 3 weeks after that.
Oh my god.
And so he dies before the electoral college can actually convene. And so
Shit.
they just divide up his electoral points to all the other losers because it doesn't matter because Grant is just won in a landslide anyhow.
I think that's the only time that's ever happened in history is that the person running against the incumbent has died mid-campaign.
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah.
Is that-
Well,
they're
he
just
lost
like, what do we do?
and then died before he could actually like be elected by the electoral he lost after he lost. Or sorry, he died after he lost, but he didn't die before he lost officially when the electoral college convenes.
Yeah, I was looking
So
at this
bizarre.
stuff today.
He was still a
too.
contestant in death. He had a chance still. There could have been a coup.
Dude, that must have
Really?
At the time, though, that must have been really funny.
Yeah.
What are you voting for? Oh, that fucking dead dude. Let's all go and get a drink.
What if you're just like, well, my people voted for Greeley, so I gotta hold true to them. And imagine you're just like in, Maine or
Like
whatever.
they restate their little campaign ads. You're still better in death than this bastard.
They double down on their anti-other guy campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
Down with other guy.
Yeah.
I'd rather have death than him.
I'd rather have a dead Greeley than a living Grant.
Fuck history, man.
Hashtag,
Retarded.
hashtag dead Greeley. I'd rather have a hashtag dead Greeley than a living Grant. That's so
You got
funny.
something for us, Sean? You figured out some
I
victims?
do,
Tell
dude.
us about these victims.
Dude, I was just not able to communicate as well as I wanted to. But what I forgot was the original Dr. William York. What happened was he was the one who heard about this stuff first before Colonel York. He went out.
Oh, so the senator went out first, or
No, he wasn't a senator.
a
but,
colonel?
But he was related to the senator. He went out. He's a doctor. He's like, I don't
Just
I
a
don't know.
doctor, medical doctor
Yeah,
of some sort.
like a medical doctor.
Okay.
And he went out to investigate the crimes that were, or the like random people that were leaving, like getting lost. And-
He's like, I'm a doctor, I can solve anything.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what his
What this
personality
murder
was.
mystery needs is a doctor to solve it. I'm the perfect man for the case.
Well, he clearly was the worst because he got murdered by them. He went out and he was the one who fucking got murdered by the actual people he was trying to find. So he fucked that up. So that's why
he probably he like kicked the door and is like, so who's been murdering people around here? Just like, oh, this fucking asshole showed up to town who's trying to figure out who's killing people.
Dude,
I gotta kill
exactly.
that guy.
Dude, there was people who survived these attacks who said that shit like that happened.
Holy shit.
They'd be like, yeah, I didn't want to sit in the chair, so they got real mad at me. And then they like threatened me with a knife, so I ran away.
oh my god.
Yeah, right? And these people could keep doing this. They kept getting away with it.
Wait, everyone was just like, where'd that happen? He's like, at the inn. And they're like, huh, well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, because that's the only place to go to.
Yeah. I wish there was someone to do something about that. I wish we had a sheriff.
It's like you need one sheriff for one county because there's one house that keeps murdering people.
I mean, the problem is, imagine you've got one sheriff in town and then 5 guys show up and start fucking with the town. You're like, ah, shit. That's 4 more than me.
yeah,
What do I do?
the whole town.
I'm scared.
But yeah, another guy said that he was sitting in the chair, and then the two men came out of like their hiding place because he was like not sitting like close enough for
Too
them to
ugly.
get him. So like he left. He's like, that was weird. They were just like hiding with weapons and then left. So I left the place.
I can't believe they weren't just like, God, they're just like, weren't just like, all right, well, let's just stab him like we
Yeah.
did with the other guy. It's like, yeah, but they ran away last time. Maybe if we just.
Guess they weren't close
It's
enough.
got to be right. Like, we can't fuck this up again. We can't have 2 men. Like, let's just.
Hold on, cowboy.
Imagine the family dynamics of that family where they're like, we let one get away. John Jr., if you do that again.
Yeah, like I can't imagine this family. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was actually like bullet holes in the house, like 13.
Whoa.
So they go in and they're like, oh, there's a bunch of bullet holes in this place.
Because they were just popping
So
them
there-
off,
so
or
there
they were
must- there-
shooting people.
They didn't use any guns, so they must have
Been
been people
defensive,
who were
maybe?
trying to like survive
Whoa.
the attack, and then they ended up getting killed.
I mean, I kind of get it. Like, it sounds like the world's most dangerous game, you know? Just like, oh man, if we can lure humans in here, they're the
Yeah.
most adaptive to get out of that. Maybe,
I mean, you had to either be really trusting or own a gun because a lot of these wealthy people, they had like up to 50K on them.
that's
And
like
it's like-
50K in modern days or like
Yeah.
50K?
so at the time, 50K was 2,600
Uh-huh.
on them.
How
But
did- Yeah, and they're probably carrying bills, or do you think they're carrying?
well, there was bills then, so I would figure it'd be bills.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's got to be weird to like go through a place that like isn't official like country, and so the currency is like indeterminate.
yeah, yeah. It's like there's nothing to buy anything over there.
Yeah,
But I mean, a lot of people must have got murdered just for money. But this family, it sounds like
just doing it for fun.
for the thrill of it.
Yeah, as a team bonding exercise,
Yeah,
like
maybe.
a family outing.
Very strange.
Yeah.
But they never found him. They like people kept on bringing people in, murdering people and shooting people, but no one got the bounty, and no one could prove whenever someone was brought to like be put on trial, they could never officially prove who they were because at the time it was just like
They don't have fingerprints.
they're like, well, 7 of the 13 people said it looks like the person, so we'll go to trial. It's like,
that's crazy. Trials at that time, like eyewitness was everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, someone saw you do it, and it's like, oh, well, then that's done. Because most crimes are just nobody has any idea why it happened, how it happened, or maybe even who this person was.
yeah. I mean, they could never actually just identify these people when they're brought to court, and so no one really got charged for all the murders.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, just crimes in general just seem like so easy to get away with.
Yeah, and I guess they got away. Literally, what I read was they got away going towards, or at least in the area of Texas and New Mexico, and they got away because I read that it's just so bad that law enforcement would just not come back from that area. It's like that many like
Just
illegal
Desperados.
desperados, like
Desperados.
like
I'm not sure what that
murderers.
means, but I imagine like banditos and desperados
right?
running the same
like,
gangs.
Like imagine that time, because like there was a time in the U.S. right now, actually, 1872, when you could run away to a certain place and the cops couldn't get you.
Yeah.
And they think they went that way and they never got caught.
Imagine being at like a pirate port
Yeah.
that's just like, yeah, we built up a city, and this is a city where there are no rules. Like,
That'd
and
be
you
crazy.
can come here.
That'd
This
be
is like,
pirate
insane.
cities.
you know, and it's like, this is not support. There's like no government here. This is like a port where we just hang out and hide, and we bring in stuff, and then we sell. You know, people sell stuff to pirates, and
You could literally back in
That
the
must
day.
have been like the coolest thing.
You could
ever.
the black market was literally physical islands. Like you could just occupy an island
Yeah.
and build your own little rebel hangout.
look
there.
up when Blackbeard was around.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. There is a very famous like pirate town.
I think that was way earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think that was like 16 or 1700s.
Yeah, Blackbeard is the age of piracy is way over by 1870. I feel like.
I feel like I feel like we compare pirates against ninjas, but I feel like pirates and cowboys are like pirates and like bank robbers.
Yeah,
Like
right.
like the pirate of 1872 was the train robber who would just like, trains were so slow and just full of people with money.
Yeah.
Same story,
Yeah.
but just probably even richer people.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, stop the train. They just put a big boulder in front of it. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going anywhere. And we're going to take all your shit, and then we're going to ride off on horses, and fuck you, you're stuck here until you get that boulder off the track.
Yeah.
And, but in the meantime, give us all your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, these companies, they, after a while, I'm pretty sure they hired like the Pinkertons and other protective measures.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to deal with that. You know,
Mhm.
like, well, all these people are robbing our trains. The only thing we can literally do is shoot them because they have guns.
Right. And the Pinkertons are given like national, like license to kill in some sort of way, right?
Yeah.
Like they're the first like private.
Yeah, they're the
Army.
first private army that, like, in the modern sense,
Yeah.
where you can actually, like,
Well, they get a salary and they're paid money,
Yeah.
not like there's a different type of private army that's like a king's army in some sort of way, right? Like a Lannister army, if we're talking about Game of Thrones for just a second. That's my context
Yeah.
for like
okay.
medieval area.
Actually, that does work, but I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. But So yeah, there's the Pinkertons. It's just crazy to imagine what it's like to be a person riding across this territory. Like, we drove across it, and it's so big
Yeah,
that, like,
it's crazy.
even in a car going 80 miles an hour with no conflicts, like, there's no
It doesn't
there's
even
no
make
fear
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
of death in any sort of, because, like, the worst case scenario is you run out of gas and run out of money.
Could hit
Or
like a deer or something.
Maybe, yeah, you ruin the
Animals.
car in some sort of way. But, like, there's no like external force. There's like, it feels there is some level of like lawlessness that's out in the West. Zach, did you
Yeah.
get a feel for that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just such a huge, like, impractical space, right? Like, how can you really... I don't think, like, those parts of the country... And we actually, I think, talked about this on the trip. I don't think those parts of the country are in a context where they are able to feel a kind of unity that the more cloistered parts of the country have to, because there's more people like surrounding you and you're more dependent on your community. But like out in those spaces are just so huge and so like harsh that like your communities are just smaller, right? Because less people can deal with that, and they deal with it in a different way. So it's almost like the civilizational difference, you know. But it's just hard to... I think it's hard to enforce like any kind of like real... I mean, of course, it's still under the rule and law of America, but
Well, it's
I mean,
still
like,
territory in some sort of way. It
Right,
still
it
has
has
the
this-
feel
right.
of like frontier.
yeah,
Like, even though it's been
because there's
settled,
no stuff. Yeah,
but it's compared to the East, at least, it feels just like it still has a Wild West kind of thing going on because it's so sparse, you
Right.
know? Because you go from these places that feel like civilized and somewhat like safe to suddenly you're like out in nothing for hours,
yeah,
you know,
it's crazy.
hundreds of miles.
Yeah,
And you know that if you got out there and something went wrong and no one came to help, you wouldn't be able to survive. And like, we're just not self-reliant. Imagine how self-reliant you had to be as like a wagon crosser.
Yeah, the
You know?
cowboys were really self-reliant. Yeah.
It's amazing that like people, I mean, did people do it with their families? Are there stories of people doing like the
Yeah, the
Oregon
wagon
Trail,
trails, yeah.
like with like children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, imagine giving birth on like the trail.
Yeah.
That must be so hard.
How long did the trail take? I don't know.
You know, I was watching a show or reading a book. I can't remember. It was really good on the gold rush in 1848, and it talked about how long it took from like Chicago or somewhere in the east to get to where the gold rush was. It was months though. It was like at least 3 months, I think.
It seems like a foolish move to go on the trail pregnant then. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
someone was saying like,
Well, what are you gonna do though? Like, you're gonna be left
wait
behind.
5 months.
Oh,
I'd rather have an
come on.
infant than be pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know
it's a
that much
gold
about
rush.
babies, but
So it's the rush. You got to get there fast.
man, I'd be fucking pissed if I was that wife and my husband was just like, we gotta go now. And you're just like, motherfucker, you don't understand how uncomfortable I am right now. You want him to put me on a fucking bumpy ass wagon pregnant for 5 months? Like, and then like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that experience is like, but it sounds
Yeah.
awful. But I guess the whole thing just sounds like, if you're not in like peak form the entire time, it sounds like just disaster after disaster. It just seems really hard, I guess, is all I'm imagining. Like,
Yeah.
hard for everything. I guess I can't imagine doing it because I don't have the skill set. You know?
Yeah, you're
I can't
not good.
hunt.
You're shit.
Yeah, I'm shit. I just can't imagine how I'd feed myself, maybe. I guess if I just brought bags of oats and just like eat
Yeah.
dry food for 5 months and you're hunting along the way.
Yeah, maybe.
Have you played the Oregon Trail? Do you have an expertise in this?
the
The
Oregon
game
Trail.
is horrible.
Yeah.
That game's awesome.
You just get dysentery all the time.
I
Have
actually
you
never
have you guys
had
played
fun
the card
playing
game?
No.
There's a card game of it that's super fun.
Huh.
That
With
sounds
like
fun.
a big group of people.
I feel like people talked
You have
about the
to
Oregon
work.
Trail like it was fun, but that's only because it was in contrast to doing school. Like they didn't go home and play Oregon Trail.
Maybe.
funny.
It's like saying like English class was fun. It's like, yeah, because we're not doing math. Like fair, fine. Like we're reading a book.
I had fun in English.
I'm just
class.
being, I probably preferred math to like English, where it's just like, oh, we have to read a thing that I don't really care about.
Well, you've told me what your philosophy towards your English class in high school,
Which was?
which was just like, this is all a joke, right?
Uh,
You're a little nihilist skater boy.
History is the only important.
I loved history, but I
Some
don't
would-
feel like I ever had a really amazing history teacher.
Yeah.
I feel like the history teacher I remember most specifically was 10th grade teaching us American history, who was like hung over all the time because he was the high school football coach who was not allowed to coach football anymore because he hit a parent.
Holy shit.
Nice.
At least that's what I heard. And so he was just miserable. And he would just sucked at teaching history because he had no passion for it. And he was just depressed because he couldn't do the thing he actually liked doing.
Ah, damn it.
And he would take the fucking
That
other AP
sucks.
teacher's tests and give us her tests. And it's just like, well, Miss Yamaguchi wrote these tests and I'm just going to use them. And it's just like, dude,
Wow.
she's a fucking like rock star teacher. And you suck really
You're just
badly.
leeching
We don't
off
know
of her.
anything about
Wow.
this stuff. The other one I remember was in eighth grade, I think, or maybe 10th grade. I forget. But the only thing that was notable about him is that he had a guitar in his office and he would play Metallica songs every once in a while to the class. I don't remember anything else that he taught. I can't remember the
The
subject.
history?
The history teacher. He was like a spiky-haired, like metal history dork.
Dude, nice history stuff.
He was Guy Fieri, actually. He was teaching us
Guy
all about
How
the
to be a
fucking
douche?
diners, drive-ins, and dives.
But he's the one who taught me about torrenting. I didn't know about torrenting until I was like
shit.
I guess because I liked
I-
music
my-
at the time, I thought he was kind of cool. I would hang out a little longer, and he showed me what torrenting was all about, and like introduced me to some music and
Yeah.
the ability to get it.
One of my teachers introduced me to Pandora.
Huh.
And like also like Radiohead and like a bunch of really big bands that for me. He would actually like he had this system kind of in his I always fantasized about doing this in my own classroom. Is he just had this kind of like open music sharing system. So he would leave his desktop computer on with his media player up. And he would have like a little library of CDs and kids could like trade with him. So he actually encouraged this like trading of knowledge over music. So like you would bring him a CD and he would give you a CD in exchange.
Ouch.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
There's a buzzing,
Oh
but I think every time you get a text, it causes interference. Keep your phone away from the wire, and I think that'll at least try it as an experiment. I got another 1872 anecdote. You guys ready for that?
1870. Yeah.
18.
1872. 18.
I just want to
1872.
All right. So this is also about the campaign of 1872. So the main competitors were Grant and Greeley. But this was also the first year that a woman ran for president.
Oh shit.
Yeah. 1872, this woman named Victoria Woodhull runs for president
Cool.
under the equal rights movement.
Whoa.
Some tiny party. She's like not even listed on the like
Right.
Yeah.
greater thing. But she seemed like an amazing person because she was like born to this like shyster schemer father who burned her family's farm down after insuring it really heavily, and then they got ran out of town.
Oh my god.
And so then
Like right after, he's like, all right, I got the money ready. Let's burn this shit to the ground. Woo! His family's like, no, this is a bad idea.
like, I'm doing it.
I love these old stories because this shit doesn't it doesn't have the same feeling if you do this shit nowadays.
Yeah.
And it still happens nowadays, but like
Yeah.
just the image of like some guy outside and there's like a fucking shack and he's like, get out of the house. And he fucking starts burning his house down and he like lives right next to an insurance company.
It's his like neighbor in town who's
Yeah.
insured him.
It's like, Bill, stop. God damn it, Bill.
It's just, yeah, you're right. It has this like all those like things, just the context of the 19th century has
Yeah.
just this comical sort of glow about it.
Yeah.
Just like, thwarted again, like kind of thing, you know.
Dang, a highwayman got me. I had $50,000 on me. Ah, if
I was
only
just
I had a-
I was just riding my pony through the woods with 50 grand in my satchel,
If only
And
I
a
had
bandit.
a portable bank that could follow me.
and a filthy Irishman jumped out of the bush and startled the pony. And I said, "Away with you, knave! You shall not have my goods today." And he said, "But good sir, I am very hungry."
And then the good Lord said,
And then he brandished a blade at me, and I commanded my servant Crone to fall upon the blade. And then I rode away to my estate, which was just up the way.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, that's 1872
What a
right there.
glorious time to be alive.
quite so.
Quite. Quite, sir. Back from Africa, I see.
Hey,
That was a good hunt, yes, yes.
For the queen, yeah. Fucking Smeagol over here. Yes. Oh, you're popping off. Did you switch the
I
cams?
just switched him.
Oh, yes. Oh, good. That's great. Africa. Was it good?
The East India Company. I'll have you know.
Down with the scoundrels, up with the queen. Oh, Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. England, men will never, never, never shall be.
Wow.
That was great.
So Victoria Woodhull, after her father burned her home to the ground and tried to collect the insurance, they ran him out of town, but they
Mob.
yeah.
Torches and forks.
And then-
Hey, get out of here, you.
And then
That
they-
was a mean thing you did.
Yeah. But then they had a
When
benefit for the
public
family.
opinion
They had
turns
to like
against
come like from fucking 20 miles away because no one lives around there.
when public opinion turns against you so much.
I mean,
that-
honestly, like moving out of town is like 10 miles away. It's
Right.
like, I'm in
Yeah.
the next town. And they're like, nobody knows me here.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So there's
you could just start a whole new life fucking down the road.
Yeah.
And
you
it would
could,
be
you
like,
could if this was 1872, yeah, then if this was 1872,
1872.
then we could just fuck up in East Hampton and move to Northampton and just be like new people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because,
It's
or especially
crazy.
if we move west, like
I mean,
the
a
West
little,
Hampton.
it's probably a little further
And
than
then-
that. That's like, right. That's actually like 5 miles, right? You'd have to probably move to like a place where nobody would recognize you at least, which is
Yeah.
still is a lot further.
But even then,
You could move to India and start
dude,
over
but think
now.
of that. Think of that 5 miles with a lot more trees and wild land and like bad roads.
Yeah, I mean, it
you know
could-
what I mean?
it could
It's so
work.
much longer.
True. It's a totally different world.
as long
It's
as
a totally
no one
different
owns
world
the
on the
property,
other side of that ridge, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just
yeah.
yeah, as long as no one owns the land, you can just
now it's a 5 minute. Now it's
You
the
can
same
just claim
community because you just drive 2
Right.
minutes and you're there. But
Yeah.
like back then, if you're just walking through the wilderness to get from, even if it's a small wilderness, it's still enough.
But
of
people
a stretch.
didn't like going through wilderness as I think we're talking about is like super dangerous at this time. Like
Right.
going through anywhere that's like not town.
Well, it was a lot of hard work too because they were just woods and they're like, oh well, this area is just woods, and they'd have to cut
Don't be out at night.
They'd have to
Yeah.
cut out whole areas just to build. And
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
And that's why this whole area just got like plowed down. It's
Yeah.
just like, fuck the woods.
Yeah.
The woods are scary and dark, and
Yeah.
and scary monsters live in the woods. I don't want to be
I mean-
like, I want no woods around.
I mean, they were subsistence. Well, they were farmers, and they needed the farm too. So they're like, oh, well, this is a good spot to farm, and they'd have to fucking cut down the trees.
Right.
But then they would use it as fuel. So actually, we have like hundreds of years of just deforestation, where like the whole East Coast was like just plains because it was all the wood was used in England and other places as firewood. That was the main source of.
Yeah, and it just took
Energy.
everything down. I mean, Europe's is even deeper into that, you know.
Yeah, the main source of energy was just wood
Yeah.
and like whale oil, which
Huh.
was like a side industry for light.
At what point was there like a wood crisis in Europe, or was there ever a wood crisis in America?
London, way 100 years ago, before 1872, I'm sure there was still a crisis. Probably even going back to like the Middle Ages. Like in the London area, it was more densely populated than India today, or like Indian cities. Just like super crowded.
You're saying London was?
Yeah,
Whoa.
it was like more densely populated than like the most densely populated city today.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk
Yeah.
about like poverty in the cities now as this thing of like, oh man, my house is tiny, but it's like poverty in even American cities in 1872 as like Manhattan must have been crazy at that
Manhattan must
time.
have been
Yeah.
a shithole.
Just like
Yeah.
there was people like just living in like
It's just like
shacks.
shanty towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like fucking in Fievel Goes West.
right.
And you just see like people living in attics and trunks and shit. Like,
So
just sleeping
Victoria
on
Woodhall
the streets
is
because they
in
come
Manhattan.
over with pennies, and they're just like, "Fuck, you got to figure it out."
Yeah.
So after being kicked out of Ohio,
10
Victoria
year-
Woodhull
yeah.
shows up in Manhattan in these kind of places. Like what the fuck is she going to do?
Right.
But there's some sort of gap where she and her sister show up in Manhattan and they live in this like place that's like known for prostitutes, and they were probably prostitutes. It sure sounds like
Huh.
it. And so
After she runs for president, you're saying?
before she runs for president,
Oh, wow.
after her family's house burns down, there's a gap in the history. And so she's
So
probably
she seems like a real radical chick.
she's
right?
super radical.
She's
I
like
mean,
she's like an original hippie. I wonder if she was a transcendentalist.
she was an early proponent of free love, and their ideas of free love were
Whoa.
different at the time. Of like, you should be able to like love who you want to love, rather than like be married off to just like the person for dowry or for status.
Yeah.
And that was like a radical idea at the time. But so she's a prostitute in Manhattan, and she took laudanum while visiting brothels on Fifth Avenue, and managed to pick up $20,000 from her liaisons, which is a huge amount of money at that time, right?
20,000 of that time?
That's what it says. That's what I
Wow.
quoted, $20,000 at that time.
That's like hundreds of thousands.
So through this, she makes so much money that she starts having, I think a lot of the money she gets is because she's having liaisons with Cornelius fucking Vanderbilt.
Whoa.
Like she's meeting Cornelius Vanderbilt, and his Vanderbilt proposes to her sister.
Wow.
Like this is how like high connected these ladies are.
Holy shit.
And so,
That's amazing.
but like Vanderbilt's family like advises against it, and so she and her sister partner with Vanderbilt and get some of his money, and they open the first women-led brokerage firm on Wall Street. What? And they're like advising Vanderbilt, and they make millions of dollars for themselves and Vanderbilt.
Holy
Wow.
shit.
Yeah,
That's an amazing story.
yeah, and then she runs for president.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
She's like, she's so current. Like, it sounds like the fucking ascendancy of like a fucking socialist, like Silicon Valley person, right? Just like this exceptional young radical person who like does this really impressive shit.
I mean,
and then they're like, time to go into politics, I guess.
Right, it's a crazy rags to riches story.
Right.
Like,
But she also is kind of this archetype of like a Bernie Crat kind of candidate. Like, this person with like a radical past who's like, now we're starting to, look at radical leftism in sort of a patriotic way, right? Because like, I think Bernie Sanders' candidacy kind of legitimized that view,
okay.
like that the 60s weren't like the 60s had validity, because now the people doing shit in the 60s are like these august old people like Bernie Sanders.
I mean, the
and
problem-
it's like, oh, you can't really argue with their record, right? Like So it validates that philosophy in a way.
Sort of. I mean, almost not enough to get him president, though.
No,
You know?
yeah, not
And same with her, not enough to get her even on the Wikipedia page for the election.
right.
She clearly didn't get many votes at all, but
She was there. She was moving stuff forward.
yeah,
right?
I mean,
You know?
she was with a party, which I mean,
at that time,
but
that's
that
amazing.
But that it also, I mean, now that I think about it, though, she was the candidate for the Equal Rights Party, which is probably a bunch of women putting out a candidate.
right.
Like, how hard is that? If I don't know what that means actually. Like, you know, it's like, is
Well,
that
now
as
there's
easy
just-
as being the like, you know, the candidate of your house?
It was
Like,
definitely-
yeah.
it was-
My friends elected me.
It was definitely easier there, like at that time, because there was just less. I mean, people were still spending. I mean, I don't know.
She had a shitload of money to spend.
This is the Gilded Age now, so there's a lot of money. Like, there's money in politics in ways that it hasn't really been before. Of just like, you know, shares of companies, blah blah blah. All this like, not only money but influence, right? Like money with influence attached to it. So it's, yeah, but
The big trusts.
yeah, exactly. So I think it becomes like a totally different kind of like political reality in some way. But yeah.
Well, going back to your whole impressive women things.
Let me flip to the victims list.
Now that we're done with Brian's impressive women chapter of the podcast.
Now we can move on to my impressive woman of my story, the Bloody Benders. Because I just remember that Kate Bender, who was the daughter who would slit the throat of the victim after they got hit in the head with a sledgehammer.
Uh-huh.
She was actually adored by people because she was mildly famous because their family was spiritualist. They were literally believed in spiritualism.
Okay.
And she was like claiming as a spiritualist who could see visions and like
Whoa.
all these other things.
Whoa. So
And people would like, she became
Huh.
well known, so people would go to her like to like figure out stuff.
wow.
And she was part of this whole
She was like
murder.
renowned for that.
And then she would just murder people.
Have you read the comic book From Hell that's about Jack the Ripper?
Oh shit. Jack the
Yeah.
Ripper is super interesting.
Do you remember like how he goes into like by the end of it it's showing that he's having like transcendental like hallucinatory states
Yeah.
like and that's why he likes murdering? And it's like he goes into the future. Do you remember that he like has this like flash into like
Yeah,
an
he's like a
office
Freemason
room?
and like everything gets like weird.
Yeah. But like that was making me at the time I had just read like 3 of Alan Moore's books back to back and he had all these like transcendent experiences in it.
Yeah.
And at the time I was thinking I was like, wow, like Moore is seeing like science and violence and like hallucinogenic drugs as ways to getting to this like transcendent space. And it sounds like she was like almost a real life example of that like transcendence or like vision through violence, unless they weren't connected. But like, not very
Yeah.
many people are like having visions, and not very many people are like committing intense acts of violence, like slitting someone's throat over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, that must like completely change your idea of like what normal reality is. If your childhood activity is fucking slitting someone's throat that your parents just bashed with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Do you know the job of everyone in the family? Like, did you say like, so Kate is the throat slitter? Is Little John? Do you know what he did?
I'm pretty sure they were just they weren't very wealthy. I mean, they were just average people, and they just lived and worked on the farm. And
No,
they
I
had
mean not
farm
as
animals.
not as professions as in the murder experience. Like, Kate was the throat slitter.
Oh,
Little
yeah.
John, was he the hammer smasher, or was he the leader to the chair guy?
From what
Or
I
was it the parents?
Yeah,
did the
yeah, it's a
parents
good
silently lead you to them to the chair, and Little John is hiding behind the curtain, and then Kate is hiding with the knife, or is it like, so we know Kate is hiding with the knife, but she could be like the pretty bait in
Yeah.
some sort of way, where she's like, "Oh, come on in, lay down on my chair."
Yeah, that's what it was described as. She was like the bait, and she was the one who would slit the throat. And
God,
there was
what a turn of events in your mind. You're
and
like, all right, I might get
apparently-
laid tonight by this beautiful girl, and then
Yeah.
seconds later you're getting stabbed in the throat.
and apparently the males, and I don't know if they could even just like figure out the father or the son was more often the one who hit with a sledgehammer. I think it was the father.
I bet the father started, and as he got too old, the son had to take over, and that was a big moment for that son.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a pretty funny account. Apparently, someone who went there, he sat at the table in the chair where they have the trap door and they commit the murder. And I guess it was described as like some sort of like blanket or something, like cotton thing that was like a drape that was over the table. And apparently there was like a bunch of blood in that spot or like a bunch of dark marks, and the guy was like, I don't want to sit here, and he got up and he got all mad and he ran away. It's like, imagine Kate
Eventually
Bender
it's-
with a knife just like yelling at you, sit in the spot.
Yeah.
He's like, there's blood all over it. Sit there.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, this isn't gonna go well, so I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they was like, oh, like, he got away.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait for the next one to come. It's like no one came. Like you nowadays, the first person immediately gets help.
It's
Back
funny
then,
'cause
it's
it's
like,
one of those-
fuck,
you
I
just
had
don't
to
know how to-
run, and I'm the only guy.
Yeah. You probably just didn't know how to tell. Like you go to the county store and you're like now I think everywhere is evil. I need to just get the fuck out of this town.
This is why people had guns on them all the time.
Yeah.
Because like they're like, I have $50,000 on me, and I'm going to this place, and I've never been there before.
Yeah, like having a pistol just sounds like the best thing ever. Where it's just
Yeah.
like anytime anything gets weird, you're just like ready to like get yourself out of there at a distance. You don't need to like brandish a knife or a sword like you used to, and it can be concealed.
It's pretty interesting too, because people back then would dress really nice if they had the money. So they would just, I mean, that works in the city where it's a little bit more civilized, and then you go west, and like, imagine just showing up and your outfit's worth more than the person's house or the inn.
Yeah.
Of course they're gonna attack you. Like that extra risk. You think they would just try and prevent that and like go in lesser clothing.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't think they made that connection though, because that kind of like caste system in style and stuff was so strongly embedded in our culture at that time, you know? Like people were trying to craft these identities, these like new American bourgeoisie identities, right? So it was very
yeah, I'm just saying
important to
it points them out to
Yeah.
be easily robbed.
but they wanted to be pointed out, and there was
Yeah.
no alternative to being pointed out at that
Yeah,
point in time, right?
it's true.
Because that was the whole symbol of your wealth.
How many people do you think
The
got
outward
murdered on the
expression.
trail between like Kansas and California that then their murderer took their clothes and their money and assumed their identity? Because you show up in fancy clothes and a lot of money, and you just become you're a new
Could
person.
happen, yeah.
Like it seems so easy. Like fuck your house. Like if this person has like, you know, a shitload of money and some fancy clothes and a wagon, and you're just like, oh wait, like I want to just go. Like I can keep going. Maybe you got
Yeah.
stuck. Like
Yeah.
you know, I mean, because people had to get out west somehow. Maybe they're, I don't know, multiple generations, but like, I guess I imagine these places as like just literally like Dodge City in Red Dead Redemption. But they might have been. It depends how far west I guess you are. Like, if you're in Utah, like I keep imagining Kansas because you're talking about Kansas.
Yeah.
But I didn't think of Kansas as being that wild and that desolate at this time.
I mean, it kind of was still, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was actually like a proxy war before the Civil War broke out in Kansas,
right.
which is really interesting. It was something about it was over slavery, right?
The
It was
bleeding of Kansas.
The bleeding of Kansas. It was like a mini Civil War.
Yeah, it was abolitionists.
Abolitionists were funding like anti-slavery rebels, basically to like kill like the landowners, and the landowners were also kind of raising these little militia style armies to like fight. Like it was this weird, very modern kind of proxy war where there were these two kind of philosophically opposed sides, like funneling resources to armed militants to like fight for them. You know?
Yeah. I think because it was a big deal of like whether or not Kansas was going to become a slave state or a free state.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. Yeah.
Because it like tipped the balance because they were intentionally keeping it equal.
Right.
They're letting states in on a slave or non-slave.
But they were
basis.
eventually going to run out of states, so like there's no way to like make it equal, really.
Right. And they were seeing that more states didn't necessarily need slavery.
Right.
And that it's just like, wait,
Only
there's
the
all these.
Southeast needs slavery to work, right? Because that's how the lower 13 colonies were built on that.
Right. I wonder, like, if there were like railroad construction, like pro-slavery people who justified slavery's like necessity not based solely on cotton. I feel like slavery's talked about as just like it's like was what made the cotton industry run.
Right.
But like I'm sure there were plenty of people who were not cotton plantation owners with slaves, right?
Yeah, anything.
I feel like I have one picture of slavery in my
Cotton
head,
was-
and it's a cotton plantation.
Well, cotton was
Yeah.
just the most profitable product. It was when they started making clothes out of it, it became just a huge because it was so superior to wool. Before that, people are wearing wool, which is
In summer.
in
Fuck
summer,
that.
which is fucking scratchy and disgusting and heavy. And then, you know, if it gets wet, it fucking falls apart and shit. And then
Well-
they came up with cotton, and it was like huge. So that's why they focused. That was their cash crop, cotton. So cotton was definitely the most popular, but I'm sure there were agricultural farms also, or agricultural plantations also.
That makes sense.
But the cotton ones are those are like the billionaire playboy fucking farmers, right? Or like the
Oh, 'cause that's just
they're like
like-
the Dallas oil men of
That's
like
the super valuable crop.
yeah. They're like
That
the
makes
Dallas oil men of the antebellum South, you know. They
funny-
got the biggest plantations, and it's just like the most money. They command their communities, you know.
I don't think of cropsmen as being wealthy people at this point.
Dude, planters in early America, you read about the founding fathers, and it's like half of them, the first thing on their resume is like wealthy planter from Virginia, like literally just big ass farmers. George Washington was a fucking kick ass farmer with a huge estate.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a farmer?
He's a farmer in Virginia.
Huh.
He becomes.
What were his crops, do you know?
He owned a plantation. I don't know what his crops were, but everyone was a farmer.
Probably tobacco if it's in
Tobacco.
Virginia.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Tobacco was
Wow.
a big one. But yeah, like fucking, it's amazing that in our colonial past, it was just like everyone knew how to work the land, and everyone did because that's how you made a living. That's how you made money. And if you got really fucking good at it, like most of the founding fathers did, you started to be like control shit in your area
Yeah.
because you had the most resources.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like a
You were your-
pre-industrial space, so there's not like anyone
Right.
owns factories.
Well,
you
some
know?
people did, but very few. Like John Hancock, I think, owned a couple manufactories, and he was also in imports. He was like he was the middleman between Britain's imports to its colonies.
Huh. Seems
So-
like such big business.
Oh, huge business. Absolutely huge business. I think the John Hancock, whatever, is it a bank or a financial thing? I think they still use Hancock's office in
Oh,
Boston Harbor.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't quote me on that. I know this is a history podcast, but I feel like I've read or heard of that somewhere. Or the building where Hancock's office was. They still is now owned by John Hancock's company, which is like I think like an investment firm maybe.
Huh. That would make sense if it's transitioned from shipping and and foreign trade to just investment. I
Right.
mean, like,
Right.
but that's still a business. When I was living in France, I met a guy who was like one of the friends of the family I was staying with, and he was just in shipping, and like his job was
He made so much money.
managing like global trade, which just seems like a crazy thing to think about. Like, oh yeah, that's right, people do that. They get the giant ships from place to place and like work in these huge quantities of goods.
It's hard to think that they can make a lot of money doing that.
I mean, it's got to be profitable to do it, right?
It's a strange, it's like a strange job.
Yeah.
Like just Even I didn't even know that job existed.
Yeah.
So
But then it's like, oh wait, that's how we get all of our stuff. You know, most things aren't shipped via aircraft. You know, most stuff, all this stuff we talk about coming from China comes like on ships by the thousand. What do you got for us, Zach?
I'm just trying to verify my hunch about that company. Legacy, maybe?
Well, I don't have any more facts about 1872 at this point. So, you got anything more for us, Sean?
no.
All right. Well, then I think it's time to wrap up and call this a show. So,
I don't think I told the story.
Yeah, it's because you're an idiot.
yeah, you didn't have anything.
I had stuff, we never got to it.
You just started reading Wikipedia by yourself.
No, I wanted to talk about the unification of Germany, paralleling the reconstruction of the South.
All
But I
right.
guess we just won't get to
No,
it.
no,
that's
we're
fine.
still
No.
going.
I need some
No,
coffee.
that's fine.
All right.
It is almost 11. We should wrap it.
I'd say we call it, and next time.
There can always be an 1872 part 2.
No.
All right.
1872 2
18.
coming soon
72.
to your podcast application.
72.
Internet.
Waiting.
Broadband.
72.
MacBoozer.
All right. We're done.
Stop.